The Senate Intelligence Committee issued its final report on Russian election interference earlier today. I know the president doesn't like hearing about this issue. Is his reluctance to accept the fact of interference by the Russians, as ascertained by the intelligence community, does that put U.S. security at risk, and if so, how?
Look, we saw it firsthand. We saw it firsthand because we were quite literally told, do not bring up issues related to Russia with the president. It might be counterproductive. In fact, one of the former White House chiefs of staff told us that we should avoid bringing up the topic of Russia with the president. Here's the problem with that, Jake. When we were in 2018, driving towards the midterm elections, it was very clear that our #1 homeland security concern was the possibility that the Russians might do again what they did in 2016. So what does that mean? You want the President of the United States to be very vocal and to say publicly, Russia better not meddle in our elections or there are going to be stiff consequences. The president didn't want to do that. In fact, he was infuriated at the suggestion that anything was being done on the subject. We couldn't get him to focus on it. The Secretary of Homeland Security would call him about it. We tried to schedule meetings about it. And in fact, in one meeting we scheduled on the topic, instead of actually focusing on the potential threat to the election, the president wanted to talk about how many counties he had won in 2016, rather than talk about the counties across the country that we were worried about the Russians targeting in our midterm elections. That's how severe this problem is. He's not focused on the threat. He's not focused on the reality. And I think, frankly, it's time to move on. And, Jake, if I can add one last thing, I'm speaking about this as a lifelong Republican, okay? I had hopes that this president would live up to expectations, or even those who didn't have high expectations for him, that he might be able to do his job effectively with support. That didn't come out the way that we had planned. And I think at this point, it's a time for us to put country over party, and I hope other Republicans will do the same.